The Youth Sports Project is a journey through the fields, gyms, courts, and neighborhoods where American kids have learned to compete, struggle, and grow. From sandlots to select teams, from volunteer coaches to billion-dollar industries, we're exploring how youth sports shaped generations and how they've changed the country along the way. This is the Youth Sports Project podcast. Welcome, Ashley Tuiasosopo. So glad to have you. Welcome to the Youth Sports Podcast. I am so excited to talk to you because I live, I think, in your hometown. And so I want to get all the hot athlete gossip from Woodinville. But I also am just looking forward to hearing about your experiences. So we're going to talk about Ashley's history in youth athletics and what she does now. So welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me today.
Absolutely. So I think it'd be great to start talking about your experience as a young kid. Obviously, you come from a family that likes sports just a little bit.
Just a little bit, yep.
So I think it'd be useful to hear about your earliest experiences with youth sports, like organized youth sports that weren't with your dad in the backyard. What did that look like? What did it feel like? What memories do you have?
Yeah. Growing up, it just felt like we were always at a court, a field, some game. So sports was a huge part of my life. I started with, North Shore Youth basketball, the little NYBA team, youth soccer in the fall, basketball in the winter, and then Little League in the spring. And that's just how my life was built. You did soccer in the fall. You did basketball in the winter. You did softball in the spring. So we just kind of went from one sport to the next. And I loved it. It was, I wouldn't want my childhood to be any other way. Just growing up, playing with the community kids. I think that's my favorite memory of youth sports was you play with all these kids for so many years. And then the culmination's high school when you all are most likely at the same high school. And some of my favorite memories were Little League softball on those hot summer days. You're out there on a Saturday for a 2-hour practice, and then the coaches would put us in the dugout, and the next thing you know, we got water balloons. We're at water balloon flight with the coaches, and the squirt guns come out. So for me, when I think of youth sports, it was playing the game. That was fun, but it was all those memories that our coaches and my teammates made off the field that really stick with me the most and what makes me cherish all those years I played youth sports.
Yeah. Yeah, I think anyone who plays youth sports is like, it was about the friendships. It was about my community. I built who I was there. You come from a family that has a lot of people who play different sports. Did you feel like this pressure to do it, or was just innately there? You were so excited to get involved and it just happened for you?
Yeah, there definitely wasn't any pressure as a kid. Like I said, I just grew up there. I didn't know any different. Being the youngest of 5 kids, my older siblings played. And so where did I spend my summers? If I wasn't at my own sporting event, I was at theirs. So I just didn't know what life was like. And I remember, as I got older, in different situations, my mom would be like, Ashley, not everyone's like you. Not everyone's like us. I'm like, okay. And now as I get older, like, oh, I know what you mean now, Mom. Like when you build the friendships that you build growing up on those teams, you just have this camaraderie with your peers that is really cool. And when you go to school, you know people because you got to play soccer with them or you got to play basketball with them. Like you just have people that you already know and are familiar with. And so there was never any pressure to play. My parents, they just told us, you have to do something. They wouldn't let us stay at home. My parents just wanted us to be active, and we all chose athletics as our avenue.
I feel like there's an entire podcast to be done about sports siblings. They talk about it with like a lot of good memories. They weren't just dragged there. It was like, I knew the other sports siblings. I learned about what it was to practice. I learned how, you loved things. I learned about our parents because I sat there with them. Do you have good memories of being a sports sibling? Are there any things that you learned from doing that in your childhood?
Yeah, like I can't tell you what my siblings did in their games. Because when I went to the games, I had a glove, I had, crayons. I brought a backpack full of things because all the other siblings were there, and we would run off and go play catch. I mean, that's where I learned how to play catch. It's where I, kicked a soccer ball. It's where I learned how to play the sports was with all the other siblings on the side. I mean, the only time I think I probably really watched my siblings play was when my brother Matt's Little League team made it to the regionals down in San Bernardino. And me and the other siblings, we were so excited for our brothers that we actually sat and watched. But all the other times, we were off to the side. I mean, we were at one of my brother's game, and me and my brother Matt, we were playing catch. And I
Yeah.
remember getting hit in the face because he threw the ball too hard and I couldn't see it. And we're kind of having a fight because he's like, "Don't cry, don't tell mom." I'm like, "Well, you threw the ball hard. Like, what do you want? It's bleeding." And then we kind of got in trouble because we're causing an issue. My parents were like, "Sit
Yeah.
down. Like, it's time for you to sit down and watch the game." But so for me, I loved going because
Yeah.
I got to be out with my friends and my sibling. The siblings, they were my friends,
Yeah.
and rarely was I sitting and watching until we got in trouble because we
Yeah.
got into something we shouldn't have. And then my parents were like, "Okay, time for you to sit down and watch."
Get on the bleachers now.
Yep. Not leaving this game.
So I'd love to talk about your experience as a Little League player and just sort of what your beginnings look like. I think one of the points of this podcast is to kind of understand what we're losing as sports change for kids and really what we can do to find solutions, right? And at the very base of this, sports is community. And I was thinking about the Little League fields down here, which I'm assuming you learned how to play on, right? And they've built a playground there. There's food there. There are places for people to gather, not just bleachers, but in other sort of like park-like settings. And it's one of the only places, we talk a lot about like the loss of third places where we can all gather and just be casual. And it's one of the only places I think of for my kid and other kids in this area to just go and be, and they're safe and they can kind of make trouble, silly kid trouble. And it's part of being part of this community. Did you experience that? Do you feel like that's changing? Do you see evidence of that in your own athletes in Monroe?
Yeah, that community was probably one of my favorite things about youth sports. And I think the difference for what I see as an athletic director and at the high school level versus when I was a kid, like when I was a kid, that community, we all went together. So like in the fall, we all played soccer. We may not have been on the same soccer teams, but we all played soccer together. And then we all moved to basketball. And same thing, like we may not have been on the basketball team, but we all played. Or maybe you lost a kid here or you gained a kid here. And then in the springtime, that same core group, we all went and played together. So like these kids you play with, it's not just playing with them on one team. I do think that's probably what's changing now is with kids only playing one sport, they only know the group of kids that they play basketball with, and they don't know the kids that play softball or, and I don't know, like I'm having these conversations more with people and with coaches, like, I don't know if it's good, bad, if it's indifferent. I mean, I enjoyed what I got to experience, and I do think kids are missing out, but I got nieces and nephews right now who are playing youth sports, and, I go watch my niece, and she's loving it, and she plays softball, and she has her softball team, and then she has a basketball team that she plays on, and there's not too much crossover, and, she's having a great time, probably because she doesn't know any different. Like,
Yeah.
she plays year-round softball, and she's enjoying it. I always ask her, I'm like, "Hey, are you having fun? Do you want to take a break?" "No, this is great," So I feel like for me, I'm like, "Well, why don't you, do this season, do that season? Why do you got to do it year-round? Why don't you take a break?" Because that's what I grew up with.
Yeah.
And, at the high school level, I do miss seeing kids play multiple sports. Um, and, the last year I was more thinking, okay, what do the kids want? Because at the end of the day, it's for the kids. And so if a kid wants to specialize in one sport, you know what? Go for it. The science research says you need some breaks. So as long as you get your breaks in, fine. But if a kid wants to play multiple sports, I feel like we've got to protect that kid
Yeah.
because that's the kid who's getting pressured to only play one.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I do think we have two groups of kids. We have kids who want to just really focus in on one sport, and cool, go for that. Make sure you take your breaks. But the kid who wants to play them all, I think that's the kid who doesn't know what to do because they have so many different people saying, "No, you got to do this. You got to train year round." And really, they just want to play different sports and compete and have fun. And those are the kids I want to actually protect. You know what I mean? Because it's hard for them. They really feel the pressure to have to pick one. Even though the whole childhood they played all three and they want to continue playing all three when they get up to the high school, or they just feel that they're not as competitive as their peers. And so it's just this weird, like I said, I don't know if it's wrong.
Yeah.
different.
I
And
don't
I just want to protect the kids to make sure the kids get what they want, or they're guided in the right way. You know what I mean?
I do. And I don't even think it's possible for people to do what you and I did in high school. I did the same thing. Soccer, I think, was in the fall. And then I think I played volleyball in high school instead of basketball, and then softball in the spring, right? And I don't think that that would be physically possible for any kid. Like, even if they did that just high school, they can't play club too. And they're talking about 4-day a week, 5-day a week practices if they want to play high level soccer. That doesn't leave room for volleyball in the winter, right?
We don't honor seasons anymore. And as a high school athletic director, I think that's the most challenging piece because, I'll have parents come up to me and say, well, my kid's a multi-sport athlete. I go, yeah, but they haven't taken a break yet. Like, this is basketball season. We shouldn't be playing that sport. We should be playing basketball. Or this is this season. I go, but you're going from softball to soccer practice to volleyball. I go, stop. Like, in this season, only play that. And I think when we were growing up, that's what coaches did. Coaches honored that when it was fall, we wouldn't touch a basketball until winter.
Yeah.
And then in winter, we didn't touch volleyballs or we didn't touch softballs until our sport. And nowadays with these club teams, they want to practice all the time. And that's where you get this burnout because, or what you said, they can't do it because they got to go to high school practice from 2:30 to 5. And then they got to go to a different sport practice from 5 to 7. And so a lot of times I try to tell parents in a friendly way, like multi-sport athletes doesn't mean you go to multiple sports in one day. It means you play multiple seasons of sports, but I can't fault the parent because this is where they feel like if their kid's going to be competitive, they have to do these things. And so it's just, it's a strange battle. At the end of the day, we're battling for this kid to be active, but we're almost making this kid too active to the point where they get burned out.
Okay, but I want to talk about these parents. You see parents more than I do. I say that with so much intrigue, right? I think you said something really interesting just now. You said, I can't fault the parents, right? Because they want their kids to be successful. Who do we fault? Like, who's responsible for the system? Like, at some point, do we not look at parents and say, you do understand that less than 1% of youth kids are going to go play in college, right?
Yeah. And if the parents stop, then these club sports have no one, you know what I mean? And honestly, youth sports is one of the most unregulated businesses in America right now. And the reason why I say you can't fault the parents is, they all have aspirations. My parents had aspirations for us. I would say I'm lucky because my dad played collegiately and he played professionally. So he had some knowledge that a parent who didn't may not of, what it's like, what it takes to get there, what's the percentage of these things actually happening. So for us growing up, we were always told these things about what college sports is like and what it's like at the professional level. And so when I say you can't fault the parents, they just want their kids to be successful. I wish parents realize they actually have more power. I think they give these clubs the power because they let someone tell them, well, if your kid doesn't do this, then they're not going to get looked. And I tell parents, if your kid's good, they're going to get looked. You don't need to pay thousands of dollars. You may need to go play those games to go against that competition.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying you got to get rid of it, but sometimes these club coaches like, well, you can only do my practice. No, I don't. And then I've talked to my sister about this because she's a collegiate coach. And, when I'd be like, Les, how do I, deal with this situation? She goes, honestly, if the parent wants the kid to play multiple sports, then go find the club that lets them do it. Because at the end of the day, it's just about gaining that exposure in front of that competition. And lots of times when I've worked with college coaches, when I've talked with them, they've called me, they just want to know the character of the kid.
Yes.
Because I don't think parents realize that when college coaches go watch kids, they can look at the athleticism. They can see the tools there that they know they can work with. So what they want to know is, are you a good person? Will you be a good contributor to our team? Are you going to be toxic to our team? And I think that's where we've lost it in youth sports. I think we focus so much on like the techniques, how you play. And we feel like we got to go do these club teams for it. When really, when you watch kids, you can figure out who will fit your team. And that's why I wish parents would know they actually have more power than they realized.
Yeah.
If they said no to these clubs would have to adjust to them because the parents are the ones putting the money in.
Yep.
And that's what I want parents to realize is you can say no and your kid can still be successful without some of these teams. Um,
But how do we get you into every school in America?
I don't know. I mean, because I don't want to battle with clubs.
No.
Like I do think we need to coexist. I played on club basketball teams. When I was growing up, when I got to high school, I played basketball. I actually stopped playing softball after 12 years old. And then my dad's like, okay, well, you got to do something in the summer. I'm like, okay, let me play basketball. So then I played summer basketball. And then when I got to high school, I played basketball and softball. So I only played 2 sports.
No, I think part of what you're saying too is like, this can happen. There are ways for this to happen, but it also involves parents opting out sometimes and saying, this is not working for my kid and this is why. How do we find a better system? And then forming it themselves, which is a whole bunch of work and research. And I just feel like sometimes parents are really overwhelmed by the system, even though they know something's wrong.
Yep, I would agree. And sometimes I think parents just don't know.
Yeah.
Like I held an NCAA eligibility workshop for our parents here at my school. And most of the feedback I got was, I didn't realize. I was like, yeah, for your kid to play college, the first thing you got to take care of is school. I go, these universities aren't going to let your kids in. And I know we've saw those newspaper articles where kids got in without certain scores or not. And I go, okay, that's every once in a while, but most of these schools your kids are going to go to, you have to have the academics.
Yeah.
And for most of your kids, they're probably going to get academic scholarships because the percentage of athletic scholarships out there, there's not a lot. And lots of times when you get an athletic scholarship, it doesn't even cover all 4 years or even the full 1 year. So I told the parents, I go, the best way to get your kids' education paid for, good grades, academic scholarships, other ways. And they're like, we didn't even think about that. I'm like, yeah, there's more to this than just joining a club team. Like joining a club team is really important, but making sure you join the right club team, making sure you join the club team that allows your flexibility to do what you want. Your kid can get what they want. I mean, I've seen people join club teams and they don't play. I'm like, so then why you're spending all this time, but you're not even playing in the games. You're spending all this money. Why not just come play some high school sports? You might have to go a different route, but you may be able to still fulfill your dreams.
Yeah.
And I just think it's because parents they don't understand the system. And so they rely on these clubs to educate them. And then they don't realize that these clubs also have an ulterior motive.
Yeah.
They also need to make money to have their club team, So I just think parents, if people could help educate the parents and also teach them that some of this stuff they can do themselves.
Yeah.
Especially with recruiting. Nowadays with social media, if your parent's willing to film that game and you can put some snippets on, some of this stuff you can do yourself. You don't necessarily need those, clubs or those programs to do it. So I've found that for sometimes it's just parents don't know.
Yeah.
And then they're kind of listening to people who are, I don't know if they're intentionally misleading them, but they're leading them down a path of, you've got to do this, you've got to specialize, or you've got to come here or whatnot. So if parents could be educated, then I think it'd be very helpful.
This has been perfect, though. I think that we got at what I really wanted to get at, which is how does someone in your position who has had this long athletic career collegiately and watched your siblings and family work professionally in athletics, how do we find that balance between what high school does, which is very different and very specific from what club level teams do, and how do we coexist between the two? And you've answered so many of these questions. I think what I really still struggle with is like, how do we find room for parents or educate parents enough about how this works so that they can find a club team that works for their kids? Have you found solutions? You said you had these orientations or these meetings where you're explaining it. Are there other ways that parents are sort of opting out of this system that they're effectively finding the solution?
The only thing I can think of off the top of my head is probably schools.
Yeah.
But I'm a school teacher, so that's how I got into being an athletic director. I started here at Monroe as a math teacher because I don't know what it would look like out in like the, in the public. That's a great question. Outside of schools or high schools, and sometimes by the time a kid gets to high school, it's not too late, but you kind of almost want to get the parents when they're younger so those kids
Yeah.
can experience all those sports and get to kind of decide as they get older.
So we were kind of in the middle of talking about solutions. So I think one of the things that I really want to know is, what are high schools doing? How have high school athletics changed to both accommodate this new system where kids are playing so much, and also to sort of push parents to think about what's healthy for their kids? Is there anything that your school does or you've seen other athletic departments do that's been effective there?
I mean, for us, I just try to push to our parents that we're education-based sports. So we're here to help your kid learn more life skills than the sport. Like we're gonna help your kid be better at the sport, but at the end of the day, our focus is gonna be teamwork, improvement. And I tell our parents, I go, there's a place for club sports, and we're not here to replace club sports, but we do believe our programs offer more growth for your kid because your
Yeah.
club sport's only going to focus on your sport, but we're focused on your kid being good in school, being a good human, like all those life skills they're going to need once they leave our campus and they pursue whatever dream they have after. And I know, when I work with other ADs and work with the WIA, that's the one thing we always try to push is we're education-based sports. We offer something different for kids, and for us, we don't get to recruit. So we get to play with the kids we grew up with, and we get to make the best of that. And I like to tell our kids, especially when I used to coach, I go, not many kids get to wear a uniform that has their city's name on it. Or if it's not a city, like for Monroe, but some schools, it's not the city name, but you are representing your community. There's not many times in life where you get to do that. Like you should feel honored and privileged. Like your club team, you don't get to do that because that's a mixture of kids from 5 different high schools. I go, you guys represent Monroe. You guys, when you host that trophy up, the community is going to rally behind you. And so I really try to push that for our programs. I tell
Yeah.
kids, when do you ever have a student section at your club games? You don't. You don't have your student body at your club games. They only come to your high school games when they're going to chant your name. When you make a 3, they're going to do their only so many people get to do that, and some of us don't get to do that in college because we won't go. Right? So I got to experience that
Yes.
going to the University of Washington. I got to wear Washington across my chest. I wore that with great pride. But not everyone gets to do that. So high school sports, it's kind of that one time in your life where you get to represent a community with your community members and have your community come out and cheer you on. And I just try to highlight that as much as I can because that is what makes high school sports unique. You
Yeah.
get to fight for your community. You get to go win a championship for your community.
Yeah. I was thinking about this, that there was a big uproar, not uproar, but a lot of talk about Abby Wambach and Julie Foudy have a podcast, and they were talking about how they advocate for parents to not go to practices. So the kids like club practices, right? Or any practice, it sounds like. Leave them alone, let them have their space, which is kind of not possible for club. Like you could drop them off and go somewhere, but it's kind of a weird thing. But with high school, they're already there, and you have the only sports space where parents are purposefully omitted from that process, right? And where kids get to kind of develop their relationships and their practice style and their hard work on their own. And I was curious about whether you've seen a change in the way that parents interact with the sports. Is it different now than it was when we were kids? Are they showing up more? Are they more involved?
At the high school, we offer open practices. I tell my parents, we have nothing to hide. If you want to come watch us, come watch us. I go, I just ask that you don't interrupt our practices, that you stay off to the side. And I have parent meetings before every season, and I try to, one, just thank the parents because they're an important part. Without them, we wouldn't have our teams. But I also tell them like, hey, release your kid to the sport. We feel we've done a good job of hiring coaches who are going to take care of your kids. So just release them. Be a parent, be a spectator, enjoy it. And I would say at the high school, just because, you don't need to drop your kid off to come to our practices. We don't have a whole lot of parents who come and watch practices, I think, by their choice. I think it is freeing for the kid. That was when I was growing up, my parents never watched our practices. They dropped us off. Sometimes I was getting picked up by another kid's parent and getting dropped off,
Yeah.
and I didn't see my parents at all, just on game days. And I do think it's healthy for the kids to have a space where they can go make mistakes and they don't have to have, parent conversation in the car about why they didn't make that move in that game there, that they can have a space where they can figure it out on their own. And high school sports, I think, lends that to yourself. As you said, kids are already here. Practice starts at 10 minutes after school gets out. And the only time we see the parents is at 5:30 when it's pickup time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's cool to see it. I haven't seen a change in parents. Parents are still the same. When I was growing up in the stands, you got to go remind them they can't always yell at the refs. Our parents here at Monroe, they're great parents. They do a great job of supporting our teams and um, making sure all the kids feel supported.
Yeah. I think I always struggle with talking about the helicopter parent trend and how that intersects with sports and what that means. And I think it shows up a lot in my kid's going to be the best player that Stanford's ever seen, right? And then
Yeah.
you're kind of thinking, well, but what's good for your kid? And that never really comes up in those conversations. But it's good to hear that they're
I
being
mean,
respectful.
we all have our parents in our high
Yeah.
schools that have that. I just think high school sports, because you're not going out and picking your teams, you're working with the kids you have.
Yeah.
I do think it helps with parents realizing like, okay, this is our community. This is versus you got to do this because you have all these players. It's like, this is who we got and we're going to make who we have really good to the best of our ability. But yeah, we have those parents. We listen to them. We
Yeah.
remind them we're here for the kids and our first priority is the team. And then we do our best to just help them navigate
Yeah.
the situation or the season.
Yeah. I think one of the things I want to be sure I talk with you about, and it's one of the things high school athletics is really good at, is access for kids who maybe can't afford to be part of the CLED system because we priced kids out of a
Yeah.
lot of that. Talk to me about access, what you do at your school or what you see at other schools, how you're handling giving kids a chance to play.
For us at Monroe, financial reasons is not a reason for a kid not to play. And we make sure parents and families know that. And I think that's probably where we're different from club sports. We just have more resources that we can tap into as a school system that can help us fund that. Um, I'll say, like, we're running girls flag football this year. We had a girls flag football game. It was awesome. We had 43 girls come out for flag.
What?
And 17 of those girls are Hispanic, and it's 1/3 of the team. And I probably have 17 students who are of Hispanic background in all of my other sports. And so for us as athletic directors working in schools, that's one thing we're always looking at is who can we get out more? What demographic are we missing out? Who can come
Yeah.
experience sports? Um, and we just find ways, whether it's, some schools have booster clubs, athletic booster clubs that help with that. We have some state laws that help us out with making sure kids have access to laws, access to sports. We do some fundraising. We ask teams to do fundraising. We have community members who will step up if they know some kid can't afford to play to help cover those costs. I think
Yeah.
that's what's awesome about high school sports is we all understand that it's to get kids out and give them a sense of belonging with their school. And we have people who and resources that we tap into to make sure those kids um, can participate. And that's why I just hope we can continue to run these sub-varsity teams, because if we can't, then that we're just going to see those kids not get those experiences. They're not going to get it in club because they can't afford it. And then they won't get it here at the high school because
Yeah.
we don't have enough numbers, to include them. That's why I'm so excited for flag football, because I think of those 47, 11 of those girls, first time they've ever played a sport. And
Really?
yeah, and a lot of schools are seeing that who are running flag is they're getting out a different demographic than our other sports. And so those are things that schools look at to see if we can get more kids participating, more kids engaged. And it's really exciting. It's why I like working in a high school. It's just all these things that we can do to help kids out.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, the flag football popularity. This is insane. So somebody said that there was a 400-fold increase in the number of kids, both boys and girls, playing flag football. And, I was trying to think about reasons that this would be coming up right now. Is it like everyone
Well,
knows that tackle has some health safety issues and they've moved to flag, or?
it is going to be in the Olympics. I know that's one big push.
Oh,
Is it's going to be an Olympic sport. Um, for girls, it's one of their only ways that they can participate. I mean, we do have girls who
yeah.
go out for the football team, but flag football is where they can actually really participated in the game.
Yeah.
I'm not sure on the boys' side. It could be all the research coming out about football, but for the girls' side, I think it's a new sport.
Mm.
I think a lot of girls love football.
Yeah.
They love watching it, and they want a chance to participate. And this is their chance, to participate with football. And it's fun to watch these girls play a sport that we're not used to seeing them playing, and their
Yeah.
athleticism and their ability to make plays. I mean, they're making plays just like you would see on Saturdays and Sundays. So it's been a lot of fun.
That's awesome. I think this is part of really what I wanted to hear from you are what are the ways that people are innovating in high schools to kind of make youth sports accessible, also make them more fun, make them safer. And, I think bringing in new sports is not something I really thought about. Are there other sports that are popping up that you guys are bringing in or considering?
Here at Monroe, flag is probably the newest one we've considered. I know other schools around the state of Washington, they've added like badminton.
Yeah.
I know down at North Shore and Kinko, they've added some sports. The one thing with adding sports is sometimes they're not WI sanctioned. So the
Yeah.
reason why flag is big this year is it's the first year the WI has added a sport and they added flag. So there's going to be a WI state championship. The years prior when like Kinko was running it, I believe the Tacoma School District, I think was running it too. It wasn't a WI sanctioned sport. So they were offering it as a club. And that's probably the one challenge for ADs when they want to add new stuff is, is it WI sanctioned? Is it WI even looking to add it? And then if they don't, then you're kind of forming as a club and then trying to find other schools that also offer it.
Yeah. So I think I want to wrap up with talking a little bit about what you notice. We've kind of touched on that today a bit, but just want to ask you, what do you see changing in sport from your perspective as a former collegiate athlete? What do you notice most?
I just notice kids picking one sport. That's what and I try to talk to kids. I'm like, hey, go out for track. I go, give yourself some options. You're a really great football player. Go run track. It translates. And, every time I try to get a kid to go join another sport, no, I got practices. I'm too busy. And it's like, okay. And so for me at the high school level, that's what we're seeing. And that's attributing a little bit to our decrease in numbers. Because for us growing up, like I said, you had a core group of kids who would go from fall, winter, and spring, and you do it together. And that's kind of non-existent. I might have one or two kids that will play 3 sports. We have this award here at Monroe called the 3 for 3. You got a letter in 3 sports for 3 years. And the
Wow.
last time we gave that out, well, actually, we've given it out 2 times in the last 3 years, but the most notable person we gave it out to was Efton Chisholm. And Efton Chisholm now plays for the New England Patriots. And I always try to use Efton as an example to people because he played 3 sports and his parents were all about that too. And I know his parents pretty well. They were all for, yeah, go play the next sport, go play the next sport, go play, stay athletic. It helps you. You may not be great in this sport, but it will help you in your next sport. And that's what I try to tell kids. I go, it's okay to not be the best. I think that's what club sports has kind of ingrained. They've got to be the best. Because kids will self-cut themselves because they don't think they're good enough.
Yeah.
I'm like, just go try. It's okay not to be the best in one sport if you're better in the other sport. You play this sport to help you be more athletic for the other one. At least that's my dad. We played soccer so we could work our feet. I remember him telling I didn't like soccer, but you played soccer because it helped your footwork. Okay, sweet. So that's we were taught at a young age we do things because it helps us better in this other thing. And then, for us, my parents were always if you gave your best, then that's good. We're good. And I just think that nowadays, if kids aren't going to be the starter, they don't want to play. And I'm like,
Yeah.
why not go earn it? Go compete for it. You may be the starter at the end of the season. Why are you cutting yourself at the beginning because this person looks better than you? So that's the biggest thing that I'm noticing is just if they don't think they're going to be that starter on varsity, they won't even try. And I think when we were growing up, I think kids cared, but we just did it anyways. And I don't know if it's because we were told to, but I mean, and granted, when I played, did I make the varsity team? Yeah. But I also played softball and I didn't start on my varsity softball team in high school. So I also I made varsity, but I didn't start, and I had to learn how to navigate that and how to compete for a spot. And then by my senior year, I was playing varsity, starting. And I think we've kind of lost a little bit of that. And I do think that's because of the club. I don't have any research to back that up, but when you can go from one club to the next club team, because one club team you didn't play, but the next club team you can play, and then you come to high school and we're going to say, no, you got to earn your spot. I do think sometimes that rubs with, kids and maybe parents, but that's probably my biggest thing I've seen a difference is, kids only playing one sport, or if they think about playing another sport, if they don't make varsity, they're going to just not play. And it's like, come on, just keep at it. Let's go. you know?
Well, and God forbid we aren't the best at it and we're not doing it for any reason other than just to have fun, right?
Or community, or because be part of a team. Like, what else are you going to do? Like, I try to get kids to go do track or cross country. Get yourself in shape. No, I'm going to work out on my own. No, you're not. You're going to go home and sit on your phone. Come out for an hour, run with coach, or go play basketball, keep yourself in shape, or go do this sport. No, I'll go work out on my own. Okay, fine. Like, go for it. And like I said earlier, if a kid wants to specialize, I've kind of grown out of that. Like, earlier in my career, I always play multiple sports. You should do it. And now I'm like, you know what? Some kids just don't want to. Okay, fine. Yeah. Then for those kids, I just say, hey, did you take time off? Nope, don't touch a ball. It's important for you to take, and that's another piece is some of these kids, they don't want to take time off. And you've got to take time off. You've got to leave it for a little bit so you have that desire to cut back in the gym, that urgency. Because sometimes I think they play too much. And when I watch games, I'm like, God, where's your urgency? Where's your and I've actually said this to a couple of my teams. I'm like, this isn't the fifth game of Saturday. In high school sports, you only get 20 games. Yep. If you come out like this is just game number 3 of a club ball tournament, we're not going to win. You get 7 innings tonight to finish, to play a game. Yeah. And so I also kind of see like this, it's all right, we'll get another game. That type of attitude of like, oh, we just have another one. Like, no, you get 20 or you get 16. And then if we make the playoffs, you might get 4 more. And I think I kind of missed that because when we were growing up, I think we understood that because if you played a club sport, you kind of played that in summer. You didn't play that during the school year. And so you kind of had this opportunity to wait for something, if you know what I mean. Like, I don't know if these kids understand, because they do it all the time, what it's like to not have to do it. And then season's in 2 weeks away.
If it's always accessible.
Because they do it year round. I sometimes just feel like, God, you're just going through the motions. So.
Which I would too if I were playing 12 months out of the year. Yeah. I can't imagine the exhaustion. Even in college ball, we had an off season when we had some practices, but there was a full 1 to 2 months off for a reason.
Coaches weren't even allowed to do anything with you.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. All right. Last question that I always end with. What is your most favorite, beloved, or funniest youth sports memory? Tell me about it.
That's a hard question.
A lot of people talk about their championship win or the time that they messed up and they learned from it. Do you have any of those that are at the top of your head?
It's not like a single moment, but my Woodinville West Little League All-Star team, all the years I played on those teams, those were by far my favorite. And it's just, it's hanging out with your friends or your childhood friends in the summer. Like I said, it's the water balloon fights. I will say probably my fun memory when I was Little League is we would go to this water tower before our tournaments. And if you could hit the ball up on the water tower, the coach, I can't remember what the coach gave us, but I remember the cheer for me was Tower Power. Because I hit 13 balls, I guess, over that water tower. And it was just memories like that where people make you feel so special. And that Winnable West Little League All-Stars, no matter what team it was and who coached it, that group of parents, they just always made us feel so special that we were on this team. And we had so much fun. And we were actually pretty good.
Yep, that helps.
We never made it to regionals, but we got super close. We won our districts and I think we won state, but those were some fun memories with our community.
It's awesome. Well, Ashley, thank you. This is so helpful and so interesting. I know I'm going to have 7,000 follow-up questions right after we hang up, but thank you so much for joining.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you, everyone, for listening to this week's episode of the Youth Sports Project podcast. If you like what you heard, you can find all of our episodes on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube.
At the Youth Sports Project, we explore how youth sports in America are evolving and why that matters. We'll talk with experts in the field about the research, the challenges, and the ideas shaping the future, while documenting the past to better understand where we're headed.
Youth sports are more than just games. They're a window into our culture, our health, and who gets to access opportunity.
Thanks for being part of the conversation.
And we'll see you next time.